Here's why law enforcement leaders like Kamala Harris and Jerry Brown support Maggy Krell for Sacramento DA. Maggy Krell is an experienced courtroom prosecutor. Krell prosecuted murderers, gang members, and sex offenders.
Pánico a ser libre. Vengo a este mundo y si yo tomo mis propias decisiones, puede que me vaya mal y puede que me vaya bien. A veces asusta. Ser libre es cuestión de coraje.
Abortion Support Network are the people who raise the money. We raise the money, we give the advice on the least expensive way to travel and get a termination.
I am the president and CEO of the Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science, soon to become the CEO of the Center for Inquiry starting Monday.
I was one such woman when years ago lost in sexual recklessness had 4 abortions without any counsel nor information from the abortion providers about the distinct humanity of the life that was growing within me.
And we can't be discriminated against based on factors such as age, sex, for example. So in the case of killing baby girls because they're girls, that would be a Section 15 charter violation. Yes, yes. Killing the preborn because they're younger than us.
I'm going to empower you to do this so that no more babies are left alone, no more babies are needing to die because of convenience, because that's basically what I did, and that was the hardest reality.
Y si la gente te dice no puedes, aborta, nunca te vas a dar cuenta de que realmente sí que puedes y de que realmente valía la pena, o sea, que se den cuenta de que no están solas y de que vale la pena, o sea, de que hay gente que cree que ellas son capaces, porque realmente lo son. O sea, una vez que eres madre, eres capaz de ser madre.
Bienvenidos al momento épico de la Ciudad de las Ideas. Luces, por favor. Un enorme aplauso para estas 8 valientes y brillantes personalidades. Este es un debate épico. Épico porque llevamos muchos años debatiendo este tema. Épico porque son 4 mujeres contra 4 mujeres. Épico porque hoy por hoy, no solamente en más de 14 entidades federativas de México, sino en muchos rincones del mundo se está debatiendo esto, se están generando políticas públicas que van a afectar a billones de personas de esta y futuras generaciones. Épico porque lo estamos viviendo en la Ciudad de las Ideas con 8 participantes que tienen toda la legitimidad para defender con puntos, argumentos y, lo más importante, su propia historia, por qué piensan como piensan. Les voy a compartir las reglas del juego. Ellas ya lo saben. I will share with them the rules of the game that you already know. It's working? The translation is working? ¿Sí? Perfecto. Antes de empezar, luces, ustedes tienen una paleta. Muestren hacia este lado si ustedes son pro-choice o pro-life. Por favor, griten quién aquí es pro-choice. ¿Quién de aquí es pro-life? Está dividido. Otra vez, ¿quién es pro-choice? Con fuerza. ¿Quién es pro-life? Todos los años nos preocupamos por aprender a escuchar al otro, por dialogar, por ponernos en los zapatos de la otra persona. Hemos comprobado año tras año, sobre todo en estos temas tan trascendentes para cada persona, que muy pocos después del debate cambian de opinión. Muchas veces simplemente reforzamos por las disonancias cognitivas que conllevamos como natura humana los puntos de vista en los que siempre hemos creído. Al final del debate, con toda franqueza, si alguien cambia de opinión, háganlo. Las reglas del juego. Primero voy a presentar brevemente a cada uno de los participantes. Posteriormente, cada una de ellas tendrá 5 minutos en el ring, en el round, the statement of purpose, por qué piensan como piensan. En este tema tan importante nos van a platicar un poco su historia. 5 minutos sin interrupción. Voy a ir de un lado a otro. En el segundo round, que se llama Crímenes contra la Lógica o Golpe Bajo, la gente tuvo que haber dadole la oportunidad no solo de hablar en el primer round, sino de escuchar con atención los otros puntos de vista, para que en el segundo round compartan y digan: mi adversaria tiene este crimen contra la lógica en su argumento, le faltaron datos, le sobra determinado tipo de opiniones que no están sustentados en la realidad. Este es un debate de identidades, de religiones, de creencias. Es un profundo debate bioético, de autonomía, de dignidad. Toca multilateralmente muchísimos temas. ¿Cómo vivo? ¿En qué pienso? ¿Con quién me llevo? ¿A qué escuela voy? ¿En qué creo? En el tercer segmento, con interrupciones, vamos a tener entre 8 y 10 minutos, donde respetuosamente ellas van a dialogar, interrumpirse y haciendo preguntas una a otra. Posteriormente, yo ponderaré si después les hago una pregunta a cada uno y tiene 1 minuto para responder, y tendrán 1 minuto para finalizar el debate. Si nos da tiempo, aceptaremos algunas preguntas y comentarios del público. Señoras y señores, sin más preámbulos, déjenme presentarles estas brillantes personalidades. Empiezo con Maggy Krell. Maggy es abogada y consejera principal de Planned Parenthood en Estados Unidos, la organización líder en la protección política y legal de derechos reproductivos. En este puesto proporciona asesoría legal y estratégica al director general y al consejo directivo en una variedad de cuestiones políticas a nivel nacional y se encarga de todos los temas legales de esta profunda e importante organización llamada Planned Parenthood. Un aplauso para Maggy. Pro-Life, Star Parker, fundador y presidenta de Center for Urban Renewal and Education, un instituto de políticas públicas que lucha contra la pobreza y restablece la dignidad. Ganadora del Ronald Reagan Food Soldier of the Year en el año 2016, el Roswell Impact Award en el año 2017 y el Queen Esther Award en el año 2018. Un aplauso a esta estrella Star Parker. Mara Clarke, fundadora de Abortion Support Network, organización que ayuda a personas en países europeos con estrictas leyes de aborto a tener acceso a abortos legales y seguros fuera de su propio país en toda Europa. Comenzó el activismo del aborto como voluntaria en Haven Coalition, un grupo de voluntarios que ofrece alojamiento en sus hogares a personas que viajan a la ciudad de Nueva York para realizarse un aborto. Un aplauso para Mara. Toni McFadden. Toni es una oradora motivacional y fundadora del gran programa Relationships Matter. Toni habla con el corazón y ha defendido su causa en múltiples foros internacionales. Un aplauso para Toni. Robyn Blumner, periodista y experta en derecho civil, directora ejecutiva de la Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science, CEO of the Center of Inquiry. Welcome, Robyn. Bienvenida. Marta Páramo, representante del Foro de la Familia y portavoz de la Marcha por la Vida de Madrid 2018, licenciada en Filosofía por la Universidad San Damaso de Madrid, maestría en Educación. Bienvenida, Marta. Gloria Álvarez, politóloga y relacionista internacional, se ha convertido en un referente de las ideas libertarias, autora de varios libros y conocida por sus debates extraordinarios. Bienvenida, Gloria.
Gracias.
Stephanie Gray, orador internacional, defensora de Prohibida por muchos años y la gran presidenta de la organización Love Unleashes Life. Un aplauso a Stephanie Gray. Señoras y señores, 5 minutos. Comenzamos.
Gracias. Buenos días. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much to la Ciudad de las Ideas. This has been a spectacular last 3 days. I've loved every minute of it, and I can't thank you all enough. It's been truly amazing. And I also want to specifically thank Andres for choosing to have this very important conversation and for including all of us in it. So thank you. Thank you. My name is Maggy Krell, and I am Chief Legal Counsel for Planned Parenthood. But as you saw a little bit, before joining Planned Parenthood, I was actually a prosecutor for the California Department of Justice. I was a supervising deputy attorney general, and my main focus was prosecuting sex trafficking cases. In the cases that I prosecuted, the victims, who were teenagers and children, were subjected to extreme forms of sexual abuse. Their traffickers controlled every aspect of their lives and their bodies, and even restricted their access to birth control. We sent the perpetrators to prison, but the victims continued to suffer long after. The impacts were devastating. And with this backdrop, I truly understand the significance of women and girls having control over their own bodies and being able to access health care without restriction. You see, there really is no such thing as pro-life for those who are against abortion. Because if pro-life means anything at all, it must mean pro-child. It must mean pro-family, and it must mean pro-health care. That's right. Abortion is health care. And abortion is health care, and health care is a human right. And the very premise of this debate that we are picking between two sides, one labeled life and one labeled choice, is dangerously misleading. The two sides are pro-health care versus a system where women are forced, coerced, and denied access to health care and decision-making authority over their own bodies. Let me say it again. Abortion is health care, and health care is a human right. And there will always be those that oppose abortion because either they have a willful disdain for women's equality or because of their own very personal beliefs or experiences. But whether or not to carry a pregnancy to term is a deeply personal decision that no one should be making for anyone else. And justice is on our side here. The United States Supreme Court has ruled time and time again that access to safe and legal abortion is a constitutional right. Look, if we are going to truly live in a free society where women and men are equal, women must be able to decide whether and when to have children. We must have control and decision-making authority over our own bodies. And the United States Supreme Court has recognized that simple truth for nearly 50 years. From Roe versus Wade in 1973 to Planned Parenthood versus Casey in 1992 to Whole Women's Health versus Helderstadt in 2016, safe and legal abortion is the law of the land. It is a protected constitutional right in the United States. And the alternative to that is deadly. When women don't have access to health care, mortality rates increase. Women die. And yet, there are those who are still proposing extreme bans, attempting to shackle women from accessing health care. The consequences are deadly. This is not pro-life. This is anti-woman. This is anti-family. And this is anti-health care. Every pregnancy is unique. Every family is different. And each family deserves the opportunity to decide what is right and what is healthy. And that is a personal medical decision that each person should have the right to make for themselves. When women have access to health care, families thrive. Abortion is health care, and healthcare is a human right. El aborto es un cuidado de salud, y cuidado de salud es un derecho humano. Gracias por su tiempo.
Bravo. Start.
Hola, thank you. I'm enjoying Puebla. My name is Star Parker. I reside in California. I work in Washington, D.C., where I run a public policy institute that fights poverty, restores dignity through messages of faith, freedom, and personal responsibility. I want to talk to you about 3 lessons, 3 abortion lessons the international community, including here in Mexico, should learn from America. Number 1, abortion is an illusion, and deep regret and nightmares come from this illusion that abortion is an acceptable alternative to an unplanned or unwanted pregnancy, that there is a simple escape valve from personal responsibility in life. Legal abortion provides this deadly illusion with energy, but a clever brain cannot delude a knowing mind. The abortion industry all across America, and in particular in our most distressed communities, is preying on our nation's most vulnerable, brutally dismembering their offspring, emotionally scarring countless numbers of families, and causing generational devastation to the moral and economic fabric of our free country. Recently, a famous rapper named Nicki Minaj told Rolling Stone magazine that an abortion from her youth still haunts her, a heart-wrenching story being told by millions of distraught men and women in hundreds of communities all across America. As you heard from the video, I was one such woman. When years ago, lost in sexual recklessness, had 4 abortions without any counsel or information from the abortion providers about the distinct humanity of the life that was growing within me. I heard all the propaganda about abortion, in school, in media, from community and political leaders, yet I heard nothing of infant development in the womb, nor any information about their mortality. Perhaps in 1973, when abortion was legalized nationwide in America, one could have argued that an embryo or fetus was only tissue. Very few instruments were available to medically or scientifically detect the heartbeat. But today, due to modern technology, this is no longer an argument that can be made, in particular with the advent of ultrasound, where we can now hear and measure the heartbeat within the womb, where we can now perform fetal surgery and fix malformations in utero. Number 2, that the international community, as well as here in Mexico, should learn from America regarding abortion, the shocking impact on our unborn. In 2013, abortionist Gosnell was exposed. Gosnell's testimony in his trial was formulated by one of my friends, Day Gardner, of the National Black Pro-Life Union. Here's what she wrote, in quote, "I cringe and gnash my teeth while sitting in an almost empty Philadelphia courtroom, hearing testimony after testimony of babies screaming and screeching while being killed by Gosnell and his employees. I heard the gruesome testimony by abortion clinic workers about how Gosnell would deliver fully formed, viable children, then turn them over and cut their spinal cords. Gosnell even joked that one baby was big enough to walk to the bus stop. Then he cut that little boy's neck and tossed him into a shoebox. It was no big deal to him to kill these children, to slash their necks as they struggled, as they strained, as they cried. If that wasn't grotesque enough, he severed off the feet of several babies to keep them displayed in jars on a shelf as some sort of souvenir. Gosnell stored the bodies of children in milk jugs and large soft drink containers and juice bottles. 47 babies were found in a refrigerator freezer. They had to be thawed out like TV dinners so that the coroner could determine their first and last moments of life," end quote. 3 years after the Philadelphia abortionist Kermit Gosnell was convicted of murder, in 2016, Americans learned that Planned Parenthood was selling the body parts of fetuses they obtained by abortion. In this past September 2019, Americans learned that 2,246 medically preserved fetal remains were found in the homes and cars of a recently deceased abortionist from South Bend, Indiana, the city where their mayor is currently running for president of the United States in the Democrat primary. Number 3, The emotional impact on our society. Abortion feeds a narrative of victimhood as if women cannot control their impulses, creating an environment of confused living, which vastly swells poverty, government dependency, and family breakdown, which increases depression, drug use, homelessness, suicide, and crime, which has lowered our societal morale and has brought tremendous hostility into our public square. In summary, abortion...
Sí, I'm sorry, time is over. Un aplauso, por favor, perdónenme.
Sorry. Lo siento. Okay. Hola. I'm Mara. I'm a mother. I'm a person of faith. And I'm the American who lives in London and helps people in countries where abortion is against the law travel to countries where abortion is legal, like Fonda Maria in Mexico City, who help people outside of Mexico City where abortion is still illegal. My charity, Abortion Support Network, has spoken to more than 5,000 women, couples, and children. I'm sorry, actually, yes, some children, women, couples, and families who've asked for help accessing a safe abortion. Most women who need abortions have things like jobs, credit cards, bank accounts, family they can reach out to for help. We don't hear from those women. We hear from those forced by a combination of bad abortion law and poverty to take what should be a personal and private decision and share it with strangers in another country. And that forced intimacy is very, very wrong. Our callers have ranged in age from a woman of 53 to a girl of 12. They have been in or escaping abusive relationships, pregnant as a result of rape, homeless, had serious health issues, were told their wanted pregnancy wouldn't survive, or they already had children and didn't want more, or were childless but didn't want children now or ever. And I have 5 reasons why I support choice on abortion. 1, it's not right or wrong, it's rich or poor. When you make abortion against the law or restrict it, you don't stop it. You only make it so that when an unwanted pregnancy or a non-viable pregnancy, women and couples with money have options and women without money have babies, or in some cases, try dangerous things to end their pregnancies. Let's stop talking about if abortion is right or wrong. When you ban it, you change it from being an issue of morality to being an issue of class. 2, parenthood should not be a punishment. Being a parent is super important and rewarding, I should know, but it's not a role you should force on somebody who doesn't want it. Parenting should not be a punishment for a broken condom or a lapse in judgment. We need to stop thinking of pregnant women as feckless and irresponsible. You might be surprised to find that the majority of women who have abortions already have at least 1 child. And I think that if a woman believes she's not ready to have a child or another child, that this is a valid and moral choice. 3, accidents happen. I know someone will say, if you aren't ready to have a baby, don't have sex. But it's not realistic that 2 people will only ever have sex if they both consent to becoming parents and having a baby. We live in the real world, and in the real world, accidents happen. And I can tell you every kind of birth control you can be on and still get pregnant, including the morning after pill. So even in cases where somebody doesn't use birth control and you think that person is irresponsible, the argument that someone who is too irresponsible to use birth control is responsible enough to have a baby doesn't make sense. Either we accept that there will be unplanned pregnancies that require terminating, or we ban all non-procreative sex. 4, judge not, lest ye be judged. Some of us are religious, some of us are not. Some of us think abortion is wrong, some of us do not. And it's up to each individual to make this decision for themselves. I've lost count of the number of people who called us and said, I was pro-life until my sister fell pregnant, until my daughter was raped, until my wife got cancer, until my partner lost his job, until I found out the baby wouldn't survive. I was completely against abortion until I or someone I loved needed an abortion. Now, I don't call these men and women hypocrites. I'm just asking people who are against abortion to remember that there but for the grace of God and an unwanted pregnancy go you. We cannot judge another person for the choices that they make. 5, what's the alternative? What happens when you ban abortion? Women with money will find a way to access one safely, and women without money will have babies they can't provide for, or in some cases do dangerous things. Here are some of the things our clients did before they called us. Not gotten the brakes fixed on the family car, taken all the pills in the medicine cabinet, rationed food for their family, asked someone to hit them repeatedly in the stomach, and the list goes on. You can't stop abortion. You can only stop safe abortion. I respect the beliefs of people against abortion. I just stop respecting them when they think they have the right to make that decision for someone else. Your opinion, your faith, your morality ends at the border of my body, and my opinion ends at the border of yours. I would not force you to have an abortion, just as I would not want you to force me to not have an abortion or to have an abortion. The decision must be left to the person who is pregnant to decide, to choose. Thank you for having me.
Hola. What gives life value? And when does life begin? The answer to those two questions will frame your viewpoint for this entire debate. I've been on both sides. I've been in the abortion clinic as a patient, and I've spoken at a pro-life rally across the street from one. What changed? I saw with new eyes what gives life value and when life begins. I was a senior in high school, and I remember sitting in this waiting room. And sitting right across from me was my boyfriend, next to me, my best friend. Two of the closest people in my life, yet I felt alone and scared. When my boyfriend found out I was pregnant, he said, "You don't want to keep it, do you?" And my best friend said, "You cannot keep this baby." And I was known as the good one in my family, so I thought ending the life of my unborn child was the only option that I had. I laid on the table as the nurse gave me a sonogram, and for some reason, I wanted to see the screen that was conveniently faced away from me. She was hesitant, but she allowed me to see. And she must have seen my eyes lighten up because, as if it was scripted, she said, "See, it's nothing. It's just the size of a pea." Those carefully guided words in that moment gave my heart false comfort, because what she communicated to me was, "You're not killing a baby." What she was saying is, you can do this. And so I decided I was going to have this abortion. I was 7 weeks into my pregnancy. What the nurse didn't tell me was that my baby's sex, eye color, skin tone, height, and blueprint for who they were created to be had already been determined at conception. She didn't tell me that my baby's heartbeat had already begun to beat. She told me my baby was nothing. I was given the RU486 pill, abortion pill, and the purpose of this pill is to block the hormone progesterone so that the baby would no longer receive nourishment or blood flow from me. This would also cause the baby to detach from my uterus and die. Next, I was instructed after 24 to 48 hours to take a second set of pills in the comfort of my home. These pills would force out the dead baby that I've been carrying around in my body for 2 days. My pills didn't work. I thought they did because I bled a little bit, but 2 months later, I was in school, and I started getting the most excruciating pains I've ever felt in my life. Going to the bathroom, blood clots the size of my fist, consistently leaving my body. I got sent home from school, lied to my mom, just told her I had bad cramps. I sat on a toilet, what seemed like for hours, bleeding in excruciating pain, waiting to flush my dead baby down the toilet. The last thing I remember is laying in fetal position in my bed, praying and hoping all of this would be over soon. I forgot to mention my boyfriend actually broke up with me the day after we went to that abortion clinic together. This completely cut off all communication, so I pretty much went through this by myself. And it took years before I came to acknowledge the pain and the regret of making a decision I wish I could take back. But as I began to share my story, I found out I wasn't alone. Countless women have told me sharing my story has helped them give voice to their own pain and regret after ending the lives of their own babies. As an African-American woman, I am deeply saddened and horrified by what abortion has done and continues to do to my community. The #1 killer in the African-American community is not black-on-black crime, not police brutality, not guns, not drugs, not heart disease or cancer. It is the direct and intentional killing of a human life inside the African-American woman's womb, abortion. Margaret Sanger, who is the founder of Planned Parenthood, had very close ties with American Eugenics Society, and their whole goal was ethnic cleansing to wipe out Negroes like me. But I am proud to be a pro-life Black African-American woman who is no longer uneducated about the lies of abortion. And I've dedicated my life to defending the most innocent among us and letting women know the truth about abortion. And here's what the challenge I will leave with all of you from pro-life author Randy Alcorn. If abortion really does kill children and harms women, then there's too much at stake to stand on the fringes and do nothing. Thank you.
I need my glasses. Hello, good morning. So currently I work for the Center for Inquiry, which is an organization that stands for the separation of church and state. The separation of church and state includes standing up for women's reproductive freedom, because no matter what the other side claims about protecting human rights and human life, this debate is squarely about religion and whether religious dogma should dictate law and control women's bodies and sexuality. Now, personally, I'm an atheist, but I support religious freedom. You have a right to believe whatever you wish, but you do not have the right to impose those beliefs on others, and that's precisely what anti-abortion laws do. So for years, I worked for the American Civil Liberties Union, first in Utah and then in Florida. And I was involved in 2 legal cases where I saw firsthand what happens when women's reproductive freedom is taken away. The first case was in Utah, which was a very conservative Mormon state. And I was called one day by the head of the abortion clinic there. There was only one. She had received a court order stopping a patient's first trimester abortion. Now, this patient was in the process of getting a divorce. Her husband was cheating on her. She worked as a cashier. She had 1 child already, and there was absolutely no way she could care for another child. But a judge gave her husband custody of the in utero fetus to force her to maintain the pregnancy. Now, we got this decision reversed because the law under Roe versus Wade gave this woman control over her body. But imagine if Roe was overturned, as our opponents would want. This man, this cheating spouse, would be able to dictate the terms of her pregnancy. Like chattel, she would be nothing more than a walking incubator for him. The second case involved a Florida woman named Jennifer Johnson. Now, admittedly, she was a drug user, but when she gave birth to a child with cocaine in its system, just traces of cocaine in its system, she was arrested and charged under delivery of a controlled substance to a minor. Now, this is a statute that was designed to punish drug pushers in schoolyards and carried a term up to 30 years in prison. She was convicted. Now, eventually, we were able to get this conviction thrown out, but this is what happens when a fetus is considered more important than the woman carrying it. Pregnant women have been preemptively jailed just to keep them from drinking alcohol while pregnant. Women have been told they cannot have chemotherapy because the life-saving treatment for them might harm their fetus. And all of this is happening in a country where there is reproductive freedom. In Mexico, it's much worse. The organization Las Libras claims that upwards of 10,000 women currently in Mexico are sitting in prison because they have had abortions, and some of them have just had miscarriages. An embryo a month old is smaller than a grain of rice, yet abortion opponents want that embryo to have the same rights as a person, as you and I. Now, do professional associations representing American medical doctors share this view? No, they don't. Does the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights share this view? No, it doesn't. Groups that do share this view have one thing in common: religion. The Catholic Church and evangelical churches and organizations associated with them say that an embryo has a human soul and is therefore entitled to full human rights. Well, I say, show me the evidence. Where is the soul when there's no sentience and no working brain? I say, it's nowhere. Yet women's lives are being destroyed by the millions by this fantasy perpetuated by religion. Thank you.
Hola, buenos días. Me siento muy afortunada de poder estar aquí. Muchas gracias a todos, muchas gracias a Andrés y a mis compañeras de equipo. Tengo un equipo de debate maravilloso y yo, para que podáis entender mi perspectiva y estar en este lado de postura pro-life, creo que necesitáis conocer un poco mi historia. Tengo 24 años. Soy profesora de filosofía en un colegio y soy madre desde los 16 años. Cuando era solo una adolescente, gracias. Cuando era solo una adolescente me quedé embarazada y en el momento en el que me enteré se rompió mi vida. Pensé que se había acabado todo y estaba muerta de miedo. No sabía qué hacer, no sabía a dónde ir, no sabía dónde refugiarme. Y tan solo tenía fuerzas para buscar a alguien que me dijera: ánimo, todo va a salir bien, Marta, estoy contigo, te apoyo. Y así fue. Fui a mi madre y mi madre me dijo: no te preocupes, Marta, todo va a salir bien. Fui a mi pareja y mi pareja me dijo: no te preocupes, Marta, todo va a salir bien, vamos a salir adelante. Fue mi padre y él hizo lo mismo. Y en mi colegio hicieron lo mismo. Y yo, que en ese momento era una niña muerta de miedo, no hubiera podido elegir libremente seguir adelante, porque si me hubiese visto sola, habría acabado abocada a un aborto. Pero no me vi sola, me vi acompañada. Y en ese momento yo pensaba que era lo normal, ¿sabéis? Porque yo crecía y veía a mi hija crecer a mi lado. Y era una madre feliz con 17 años, con 18 años. Estudié mi carrera, empecé a trabajar y estaba feliz de tener a mi hija y no era consciente de la realidad que sufren muchas mujeres por verse coaccionadas y acabar abocadas al aborto. En una ocasión, unos amigos me pidieron que compartiera mi testimonio y yo pensaba que no era importante. Yo conté mi historia y se grabó un vídeo de YouTube. Y de pronto, miles de visitas y muchísimas chicas. He de decir que bastantes de México, de Ecuador, pero también de España, de Madrid, de mi ciudad, me decían: gracias, Marta, porque estoy embarazada y estoy sola y no he oído una sola palabra de esperanza. Nadie me ha dicho: tú puedes. Nadie me ha dicho: te voy a apoyar. ¿Qué necesitas? ¿Qué necesitas? No, tu vida se ha destruido, solo puedes abortar. Porque yo sé el miedo que tienes en ese momento. Y si no tienes apoyo, si no tienes ayuda, si no tienes la información que yo tenía, entonces, ¿qué tipo de decisión libre es esa? ¿Qué tipo de decisión libre es una decisión en la que se arrincona a la mujer, se la deja sin ayuda y se le dice: tu vida se ha acabado, la única opción que te queda es el aborto? Lo que yo he vivido es que la vida no solo no se acaba con un embarazo en la adolescencia, sino que mi hija ha hecho mi vida más grande. Mi vida es preciosa y soy una madre feliz. Y no entiendo por qué yo tengo esta situación privilegiada y hay otras mujeres que se ven abocadas al aborto. Entonces, cuando a mí me dicen que el aborto es una cuestión de libertad, yo digo: ¿así de libertad de quién? ¿Qué tipo de libertad tiene una niñita de 16, de 12, de 13 años que ha sido forzada, que no tiene información sobre lo que es un aborto, que no tiene recursos económicos, que no tiene ayuda de su familia, que la echan a la calle? ¿Qué tipo de libertad es esa? Yo creo que eso es coacción. Y un Estado que decide legalizar el aborto está aceptando como ley este fracaso. Es decir, le está diciendo a la niña que está sola, le está diciendo a la mujer, da igual, no hace falta que sea joven, sencillamente está diciendo, tu hijo, tu problema, yo solamente te digo, puedes solucionarlo abortando, cuando realmente, uno, un hijo no es un problema. Dos, un hijo es una responsabilidad, pero no es una responsabilidad solo de la madre, es una responsabilidad del padre, es una responsabilidad de la madre, es una responsabilidad de la comunidad entera. El Estado que legaliza el aborto está asumiendo que los hijos son una responsabilidad de la madre y un problema de la madre y, por tanto, se está convirtiendo en un Estado machista. Porque los hijos no son solo de las madres. Y las mujeres no tienen que verse solas ante esta situación. Cuando el Estado apoya el aborto, está dejando a las mujeres solas y débiles. Está apoyando el fracaso y está fracasando como Estado al no saber proteger a los más débiles. Gracias.
Hola. ¿Cuántos de ustedes aquí han tenido sexo sin protección al menos una vez en su vida? ¿Cuántos de ustedes son conscientes y están existiendo hoy en el mundo debido a un embarazo que no fue planeado? Yo soy un accidente. Yo no se suponía que debía haber nacido. De hecho, mis papás ya se habían peleado cuando yo venía en camino y la razón por la que se quedaron juntos es porque tal vez un nuevo ser humano venía en camino. Y siempre me pregunté por qué mis papás estaban juntos. Se peleaban todo el tiempo, se notaba que no se querían. Y mi abuela finalmente a los 25 años me reveló la verdad, una verdad que la verdad es que me liberó bastante. Y a pesar de la mala relación que ellos tuvieron, yo estoy eternamente agradecida con mis papás por cómo fueron conmigo, con mi hermano, pero precisamente porque me siento mal de saber que dos personas sacrificaron su vida, la existencia como la conocían, pues soy una persona que está a favor de la vida de la mamá. Y estoy a favor de la vida de mi mamá, la mía y de todas las mujeres aquí presentes, de tener el derecho a vivir su vida como ellas la quieran vivir. Porque, gracias, estar vivo no es lo más importante. Ayer nos decían la frase del famoso premio Nobel que decía, la calidad de vida es más importante que la vida misma. La existencia no significa nada si con esa existencia no podemos decidir cómo existir, cuándo queremos hacer las cosas, cómo las queremos hacer, con nuestras decisiones, no las que nos impongan. El derecho a vivir tu vida como tú lo quieres vivir implica también el derecho a ser mamá cuando tú quieras ser mamá. Y hay miles de razones para ser mamá, como hay miles de razones para no serlo. Y a veces la misma mujer puede decidir no ser mamá en un momento y ser mamá en otro momento. Como por ejemplo, una niña de 9 años en Guatemala, después de haber sido violada sexualmente por su papá, su tío, su hermano, que es lo que le pasa a 2,000 niñas en Guatemala, la mitad de este auditorio, todos los años, entre 9 y 14 años de edad. Tal vez a esa edad no quiere ser mamá, pero tal vez a los 33 ya se atreve a ser mamá y lo puede ser con su esposo, con su novio o tal vez con su novia o su esposa también. Déjenme compartirles que yo soy la primera guatemalteca candidata a presidente en mi país que además de proponer legalizar el aborto, he propuesto legalizar el matrimonio gay, también la prostitución y la adopción homoparental. También he sido una mujer, gracias, que he pasado incontables horas explicándole a mujeres indígenas en pobreza cómo funciona el sexo, cómo ponerse un condón y cómo alimentar adecuadamente a un niño para que no caiga en la desnutrición crónica que sufren en mi país 1 de cada 2 niños menores de 5 años. Porque vivir no es solo vivir, es calidad de vida también. Gracias. Descuénteme los aplausos, no son mentiras. En la última década, en mis redes sociales se ha compartido más información sobre el aborto que en los 4 gobiernos que ha sufrido mi país. Y déjenme decirles que de 100,000 comentarios que se comparten en mis redes, 76,000 son de hombres. Y ustedes pensarían, bueno, ellos son hombres, no se embarazan, han de ser muy buena onda con lo que dicen. Pues no. 76,000 de esos comentarios, 54,000 son asesinas, aborteras, promiscuas. Y en cambio, las mujeres permanecen en silencio. Señoras, chicas, Si ustedes no hablan, alguien lo va a hacer por ustedes. Y en el tema del aborto, somos nosotras las que deberíamos de estar conversando. Las mujeres en pobreza no están exigiendo las leyes que necesitan. Y los hombres creen que con avergonzarnos van a permitir que algo mejor suceda, pero no es el caso. La vergüenza solo lleva al silencio, y el silencio lleva a la ignorancia, y la ignorancia lleva a malas decisiones sexuales. Deberíamos de cambiar esa vergüenza que se trata de poner por mejor comunicación, porque la empatía y la conexión lleva a mejor información. Ser madre es una cosa maravillosa, pero una vez tomas esa decisión, no hay vuelta atrás. Y el derecho a la vida debería de ser el derecho a vivir tu vida como la quieres vivir. Y por eso yo creo que deberíamos de quitarle a las personas que no creen en legalizar el aborto el decir Prohibida. No, estar de acuerdo con la vida es estar de acuerdo con la vida que ya existe, que es el de las mujeres. Y díganme decirles una cosa, el aborto no está en el bucket list de ninguna mujer. Y precisamente por eso debe ser legal.
Gracias. Muy bien.
Everyone on this stage and in this room agrees about something. What we agree about is to be pregnant and young, to be pregnant from rape, to be pregnant and poor is a difficult, tragic, crisis-packed situation. We agree on that. And so there's no need to debate that. Today, the debate is about this. Is the act of abortion an ethical solution to what we all agree is a difficult problem? And in order to answer that question, we need to ask a question, and that question is this: do we believe in human rights? I'm going to guess it's safe to say we do. I believe in human rights. So next question is this: who gets human rights? Well, if children get children's rights and women get women's rights, then humans get human rights. So when do humans begin their lives? Science has taught us that beings which reproduce sexually begin their lives at fertilization or conception. They begin their lives at sperm-egg fusion. For it's in that moment that the one-celled embryo is alive because the embryo is growing. 2 cells, 4 cells, and so forth. We know in that moment the embryo is human because the parents are human. So here's another question. What do civil societies expect of parents? We expect parents to help, not harm their children. That is why there is universal outrage at news headlines that say things like, parents starve, kill, torture their toddler. Because we recognize the child should be reverenced by the parent. So when does parenthood begin? When does a male and a female suddenly become a father and a mother? Well, since offspring begin at fertilization, that you know at that moment that that individual is genetically distinct from the male and the female, and in that moment bears some genetic similarities, but is distinct genetically from them, and therefore where there is offspring, there is suddenly parents. And so because the act of abortion dismembers, decapitates, and disembowels the body of a child, it ought to be rejected. In fact, the United Nations, in its Declaration on the Rights of the Child, has said the following, I quote, "The child, by reason of his physical and mental immaturity, has rights to special safeguards and care before as well as after birth." End quote. The words of the United Nations. The United Nations has also adopted the Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And in this document, it says, in countries where the death penalty is legal, it may never be done on a pregnant woman. Why? Why? What is the difference between a guilty woman who is pregnant and a guilty woman who is not pregnant in a country in which both women have committed a crime that their country says is deserving of the death penalty? What is the difference? In the body of one of those women is an innocent child. We might debate about whether guilty people should get the death penalty, but everyone agrees innocent people should never get the death penalty. And so the very fact that the United Nations is saying a pregnant woman may never get the death penalty even though she's guilty is because it would kill an innocent child. If it is wrong to kill a preborn child because or by way of the death penalty, it is wrong to kill the preborn child by abortion. Abortion will not unrape a rape victim. Abortion will not make a poor woman rich. And abortion will not turn a woman's frog of a boyfriend into a prince. What it does do is take away the human right to life of the youngest of our kind, preborn children. Thank you.
¡Wow, wow, wow, wow! ¡Qué debate! Grandes argumentos. Congratulations to all of you. Tough. Do you need time for your strategy? Are you okay?
I'm good.
Okay. Now is the time to go to crimes against logic. Now I will start with you. Just 3 minutes. El reloj 3 minutos, por favor. No interruptions. ¿En qué se han equivocado? ¿Dónde los argumentos son falaces? ¿Y qué problemas tiene el pensamiento, la idea de la otra persona? In case, after this great first session, you have change of opinion, you could change of side. Anybody change of opinion? Well, we will wait. ¿Listos? 3 minutos.
Okay, logic. The question is about logic. Well, what we know is when someone is pregnant, they are pregnant. So the question then becomes, is it logical to look at this pregnancy as property? Property of the mother, property of a society that has bought into something that might not be as logical as one might think in their misinformation they may hear. Is it logical for a nation to kill a child developing in their mother's womb because she doesn't want that child? I'm going to continue with the statement that I did not have time to say during my 5-minute presentation. Because what I believe on this question of logic is abortion as was slavery. It is a crime against humanity. This is not a question of property if we're thinking logically about humanity. It is a crime against humanity, so America should not be doing it, nor should we export it, nor should we encourage it, nor should we fund it around the world, nor should Mexico consider aborting their offspring. Like slavery, tension was created in the public square and in law concerning who qualifies for natural rights worthy of protection. For the first 89 years of America's founding, it was the black slave who sought equal protection under the law, and many attempts were made to heed their cry. Today, it is the conceived person living in the womb of its mother that should be considered human with opportunity of equal protection under the law. If the baby in utero is not a human being in the fullest sense of this term, then he or she has no natural right to life. However, if the opposite is true, then the humanity in the womb is entitled to constitutional rights to life worldwide. When we ask about logic, It is one thing to determine in our minds that we want to kill what God calls his reward. But our knowing heart cannot take the reality away that a pregnancy is a pregnancy.
Thank you. I'm not here to invalidate anybody's personal experiences. We all have stories. But I did want to tell you a little bit about some of our patients and some of their stories. You see, Planned Parenthood serves millions of patients each year in the United States, and we offer all kinds of services from sexually transmitted disease prevention and treatment to abortion to birth control to care for transgender folks. We provide a full spectrum of reproductive health services, and that is something that I'm so proud to be a part of. Our doctors, our nurses, our medical assistants meet with patients every day, and the patients keep coming back, and they tell us that they don't regret the medical care that they've received, that they are glad. I've had patients tell me that they've managed to be able to go to college because they were able to get an abortion, and they were able to finish school, and they were able to have a career. I've had other patients tell me that cancer was detected early enough because they came to Planned Parenthood, and they were able to live. These are the stories of our patients. We offer life-saving services to patients throughout the world, and that is something that we are proud of. Yeah.
Statistically, 1 in 4 women have had an abortion. So I know in a room this size and many streaming this live, I'm not the only one who's experienced that. And I don't want to waste the opportunity to speak to those of you who have felt like I have felt, the regret, the shame, the guilt, or even lied to. I believe my sole purpose is not just to debate these 4 women, but to bring hope to those of you who are still in a place of hopelessness. I stand here, by the grace of God, not sitting in my shame or the pain of my abortion, because I've been able to grieve the loss of my child, and I've been able to recognize that, which was a very hard thing to recognize, that what I did was wrong. But here's what I think the problem with abortion is: they think initially that's going to fix everything. That if I end the life of this child, this is going to make my circumstance better. And in many cases, it makes it worse because they don't prepare you for what's down the road. Here's the most beautiful thing about life is that you don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know how your circumstance is going to change. And here's the change that happened for me. 10 years later, that same boy I told you about that was sitting in that waiting room with me at that abortion clinic and broke up with me the next day, he came back into my life to apologize to me for the way that he treated me. And I sat across from this man telling me how much this abortion had affected him and how it was easier for him during that time to walk away from this relationship than face the reality that we ended the life of our child. He is also the same man that put this ring on my finger. We've been married 10 years, thank you. We have 4 beautiful children, and when we look into the eyes of our beautiful children, we know what our aborted baby would have looked like. And that's a sense of regret that will stay with us for the rest of our lives. I'm really trying to challenge all of you, and here's a challenge I want to leave with you, again, from one of my favorites, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He said, "A man dies when he refuses to stand up for that which is right. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for justice. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for that which is true." Will you stand for that which is right, just, and true? Thank you.
So this is called Crimes Against Logic, but we all have a lot of feelings. And again, everybody's entitled to their feelings. And I don't want to invalidate what anybody feels is right or true. So I heard that abortion is an escape valve from responsibility. But actually, parenting or not parenting is a responsible choice that someone can make. I heard that abortion causes emotional scarring, and that's true. Although a lot of studies show that it's not exactly the abortion, it's the circumstances in the person's life that caused them to choose abortion. But if they had to go back in time with the same circumstances, they would make the same decision. And I'm not saying that's everyone's truth. There was also a study in the States, the Turnaway study, that followed, I think, 5,000 women who'd had abortions over several years, and 97% of them did not regret their terminations. I've heard lots of gruesome depictions of abortions and fetuses being ripped limb from limb and blood and clots. And I gotta tell you, abortion is gross. So is heart surgery, an appendectomy. You know, medical procedures are not pretty, which is why they don't let us watch them. So yes, it's gross. We all agree that there should be more supports for anyone who is pregnant, who wants to continue the pregnancy, yes? We should close the gender pay gap, make childcare affordable, affordable housing, healthcare, clean water, all of these things. Yes, let's fight for all of these things. And that's why, as my daughter was growing, I donated every single bit of her kit to a crisis pregnancy center that was helping women who were continuing their pregnancies. I've heard about coercion. Coercion is not pro-choice. Pro-choice people do not think we should force other people to have abortions. And all of the clinics that Abortion Support Network works with are, one of the regulations is they must tell women about all of their options when they are pregnant. There's 3 options. They are parenting, adoption, and abortion. And all 3 of those options are valid. I've heard life begins at conception. And this is believed by many of the women who call us, and yet they still have abortions. We can debate abortion all we want, but no matter what we say on this stage or think in this auditorium, thousands of women are still going to have abortions. Let's make sure these women, many of whom are mothers, many of whom will go on to have children or more children, are safe.
Bueno, decir que el aborto es un derecho de salud y es un servicio de salud implica dar por supuesto que en el aborto la única implicada es la mujer. Y esto no es cierto. No porque yo lo piense, sino porque lo confirman los hechos. Como ha dicho Star, el aborto es un crimen contra la humanidad porque de hecho hay un inocente, cosa que confirma la ciencia, la biología, y el propio sentir de la madre. De hecho, es bastante paradójico y lógico que una mujer, cuando desea seguir adelante con su embarazo, se le diga «qué bien, que tienes un bebé, qué tal va el niño, cómo está, ya es chico, ya es chica», y cuando no desea seguir adelante o simplemente es un grano de arroz. Cosa que también me ha resultado bastante paradójica, porque ha dicho ¿por qué va a tener más derechos que yo si tan solo tiene el tamaño de un grano de arroz? Espero que el tamaño no condicione los derechos que tenemos, porque yo tendría poquitos. Y bueno, también me ha resultado bastante paradójico, gracias. Me ha resultado paradójico escuchar que es una cuestión de ricos y pobres. Es cierto esto, pero lo que no es cierto es que en el momento en el que se legaliza el aborto, esta diferencia se disuelve, porque lo único que permite eso es a los ricos acceder a un aborto seguro, porque ellos deciden abortar, y a los pobres acceder obligatoriamente al aborto de manera segura. Es decir, no soluciona la situación de pobreza. Como ha dicho Toni, el aborto se vende como una solución al problema de la mujer. Pero la realidad es que el problema no es el niño, el problema es la situación en la que ella se encuentra. Es una situación de violencia familiar, de violencia machista, es una situación de pobreza económica, es una situación de falta de apoyo social y el aborto no soluciona ninguno de esos problemas. Es una falsedad que el aborto los solucione y, por tanto, es una falsedad que el aborto ayude a los pobres a dejar de ser pobres, a no ser que consideremos que la solución es acabar con los pobres. Entonces, para dar a luz a un niño pobre, pues mejor no le doy a luz. Cosa que engancha bastante bien con la cuestión de la calidad de vida. Para poder hablar de calidad de vida es necesario hablar primero de vida. Entonces, si yo priorizo mi calidad de vida por encima de la vida de un ser humano que se está desarrollando dentro de mí, entonces, ¿qué pasa con su calidad de vida? ¿No existe? ¿No vamos a hablar de ella? Es bastante paradójico. Y creo que ya está. Y me gusta escucharte, Mara, porque yo también he donado las cosas de mi hija a asociaciones de ayuda. Creo que son muy necesarias.
We heard that going from an embryo to a toddler is basically just 3 years of life. It's essentially the same thing, just a growing child from an embryo to a toddler. Well, that's like saying that when I order eggs in the morning for breakfast, that I'm eating a chicken. And it's just not the same thing. I mean, ask a vegetarian. Eggs are not chickens. Embryos are not toddlers. They're a difference in kind. And the question, of course, comes down to when does life begin? None of us up here are medical doctors, but so we could refer to that kind of expertise to answer the question. And the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, which is the professional association of physicians that deal most closely with pregnancy and with fetal development, and they would know better than anyone else when there is an actual killing of a human life, is nonetheless pro-choice. They say that an induced abortion is an essential component of women's health care, and it's a decision that should be made between the woman and her health care provider without the interference of any third parties. We heard that abortion is a crime against humanity, that it's a violation of human rights, except that international human rights bodies do not agree with that. According to the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights, access to abortion is a matter of human rights, and international human rights bodies stand for the rights of women not to be discriminated against and to have access to good health care, and that includes access to abortion services. The fact is, you know, even in countries that restrict abortion, abortion happens all the time. It just happens in extremely unsafe circumstances. According to the World Health Organization, 47,000 women a year die due to unsafe abortions around the world. And in fact, the World Health Organization also says that countries with less restrictive abortion laws in general have lower abortion rates than countries with highly restricted laws. So really what we're talking about here is whether abortion will be safe, not whether abortion will happen. Thank you.
I forgot we switched orders. Okay, so Maggie spoke about sex trafficking victims, and I am encouraged by the work she has done to help people get out of human trafficking. But here's my question. What makes human trafficking wrong? The strong overpowering the weak, treating a human person as an object. What makes abortion wrong? The strong overpowering the weak, treating a human person as an object. So we don't solve trafficking by committing homicide. And it is homicide because I am not 50, but I am an adult. And a 2-year-old is not a teenager, I'm not 50, but I'm a human. And a 2-year-old is not a teenager, but is still a human. And so we humans have labels to refer to age ranges. And just as we have adult, teenager, toddler, and infant, we also have the labels fetus and embryo. They merely tell us how old something is. The question is, what is the something that is a certain age? And if the parents of that something are human, then that something is human. And since a pregnant woman is human and her partner is human, that embryo is merely a child of a species called human or Homo sapiens, and children ought to be respected. There was a reference to a woman has a right to control her own body. So here's my question. When a woman gets a negative pregnancy test, does she ever go to an abortion clinic? No. Only when the test is positive. So what is the negative test telling her? It's only your body. Oh, phew, don't have to go to the clinic. What's the positive test telling her? There's another body there. It's suddenly no longer just your body. And the very fact that a woman goes to an abortion clinic is an admission that there is another body present. And so the question is, what do civil societies expect of parents? And it's to protect their children. And the other reference was safe abortion. Safe for who? There's an assumption there that has not been refuted. Abortion is never safe for preborn children. And then Mara made the reference that, well, you know, heart surgery is bloody too. Of course heart surgery is bloody, but why do we do heart surgery? To take that which is unhealthy and restore it to health. But imagine we took a heart and just cut it into pieces and killed someone. That would be wrong. So abortion is not merely bloody like heart surgery, it's taking a healthy state, namely a child who should be in the womb, and then causing an intentional destruction, and that would be the exact opposite of the analogy that she provided. She said, judge lest you not be judged. I'm not talking about judging people, but we've just judged human trafficking. It's wrong. We judge rape. It's wrong. We judge immoral actions all the time. And because abortion ends the life of a child, of course I'm going to judge that action and say we should never kill children.
Yo soy tan libertaria y respeto tanto que una mujer quiera o no quiera ser mamá, que a pesar de que estoy a favor de que el aborto sea legal, no estoy a favor de que ninguna de ellas cuatro y nadie de los que son en contra de que el aborto sea legal paguen con sus impuestos los abortos de otros. Creo que el aborto tiene que ser legal. Eso no significa que debería ser pagado con el dinero de alguien más. Dicho eso, los antiabortistas piensan, en mi experiencia, en una mujer latinoamericana que es perfecta y tratan de agarrar una utopía que no existe para evadir una realidad horrible que sí existe. Esta mujer latinoamericana perfecta recibió una educación sexual buenísima, biología, evolución en la escuela pública o privada y también dentro de su familia. Nunca le ocultó a sus papás que ella era sexualmente activa, a pesar de que los papás le dijeron que por leyes católicas no debería de llegar sin ser virgen al matrimonio. Y por supuesto, nunca tuvo un novio que le dijera solo la puntita o que la manipulara para tener sexo con ella. O sea, estamos hablando de una mujer perfecta que no existe y con esa utopía queremos evadir una realidad que sí existe. Y el problema es que al final estamos dañando la calidad de vida de las más pobres, porque las ricas agarran un avión y se van a abortar donde es legal. Las pobres o tienen el bebé, y ahí discierno contigo, porque tu calidad de vida, claro que te debería de importar antes de traer un niño al mundo, sobre todo porque si ese niño va a depender de ti y tú le tienes que dar de comer, llevarlo a la escuela, educarlo y darle amor, eres tú la que se debe poner primero. Es como cuando en los aviones nos dicen, póngase la máscara primero usted. Si una niña, una adolescente está ahogada y no puede respirar en su propia vida, ¿cómo va a traer más vida a este mundo? Y yo respeto y admiro que tú a tus 16 años hayas tomado esa decisión, pero por lo mismo deberías de respetar a las que no van a decidir lo mismo. Y precisamente porque el aborto no está en el bucket list de nadie, ninguna mujer se levanta en la mañana y dice, ay, hoy voy a ir a abortar, qué bonito. No, es una decisión difícil y mientras permanezca, como ya les expliqué, en la vergüenza y sean los hombres, que ni siquiera son los que abortan, los que más hablan del tema y no se den espacios como este, entonces las mujeres van a permanecer en el silencio y el silencio lleva a la ignorancia y la ignorancia lleva a incluso más abortos, como ya explicaron de este lado. En este mundo hay 46 millones de abortos al año y la mayoría son ilegales. Entonces, si vamos a estar a favor de esto, por favor pensemos en el futuro. Yo sueño con el día en que la tecnología haga que los hombres puedan embarazarse y que a la mujer se le pueda sacar el feto y en una máquina se pueda desarrollar. Y vamos a ver ahí si los antiabortistas se ponen a adoptar. Gracias.
Un aplauso a estas 8 extraordinarias personalidades que tienen argumentos sólidos. Uno puede estar a favor de un lado o a favor del otro. Hay cosas que además no se cambian con los argumentos. Hay cosas que están en el corazón, que están en cosas que por más que te digan esto sí suena bien, pero no puedo. o no quiero cambiar, o realmente un enorme aplauso porque consistentemente los argumentos a todos, estoy seguro, de este auditorio, y por supuesto a los que nos ven en sus casas, porque este es un programa que pasará por ADN 40 y por streaming, estoy seguro que nos hace pensar. Les agradecemos porque ese es el objetivo. Pensar críticamente, pero para pensar críticamente hay que tener argumentos sólidos para poder hacer esa decisión. Un aplauso a ellas 8, por favor. Ahora, como ustedes en este escenario, as you can see and watch here, you have 10 minutes. Please don't monopolize the microphone. Respect, but interrupt. I will give the word only in case it's needed. It's a free dialogue. Whoever wants to begin, please.
Well, I would like to say something to begin. When we say that there's no humanity in the womb, if this is not a person, in particular with Planned Parenthood, how is it then that they are selling livers if it's not a liver, and or a kidney if it's not a kidney? I would also have to ask, if it is not humanity in the womb, how is it now that we are doing surgery inside the womb on heart, so to make sure the baby has viability and can live if it's not really a heart? That is question number one. Then question number two, that says that it's just a matter of choice. You don't want an abortion, don't have one. These are the same arguments we heard during slavery. You don't want a slave, don't have one. But yet we start saying, it's going to happen anyway, so maybe we should just make it happen well. We saw in different law throughout the country of America where they started making it a little bit easier. Like, for instance, they made sure to pass manumission laws so that no longer could the slave just be taken out into the middle of the wilderness at 65 and die, that they were going to be more humane. So those are the two questions that I would ask.
Sure. The statements that you're making about Planned Parenthood are completely false. And shame on you for using this platform to repeat lies that have been blatantly called lies for so long. They're vicious lies and they're blatant lies. But in terms of your entire argument seems to rest on this idea of personhood. The problem with that argument is the legal definition of personhood begins after birth. That is why, Stephanie, human trafficking is a crime and abortion is health care.
Okay, if I could I respond to that? So the United Nations, in its Universal Declaration of Human Rights, says everyone has the right to life, and in Article 6, it says everyone has a right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. In the preamble of that document, it refers to everyone as all members of the human family. So since the pregnant woman is human, then her offspring ought to be human. They're members of the human family. So according to Article 6 of the UN, that means they're considered persons. How do you respond?
Once they are born, they are considered persons. Once they are born, they are considered persons. But there is no scientific or medical basis for your statement, and the legal definition is that personhood is conferred after birth.
In addition,
are they members of the human family?
In addition, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Right to Health argues that laws that criminalize abortion infringe on women's dignity and autonomy by severely restricting her decision-making in respect to sexual and reproductive health. The United Nations, in multiple guises, stands for women's rights to abortion, stands against the criminalization of abortion. This is the international human rights community is on our side of this argument, not yours.
Sure, to respond, I agree with you that there is contradictory information in the United Nations, but there is something so foundational, which is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So my point would be, do you agree with the UN's document that all members of the human family, according to Article 6, ought to be considered persons before the law? Do you agree with that aspect of the United Nations document?
As long as these are born persons.
Well, all members of the human family does not stipulate whether you're born or not. So do you reject then the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? Do you reject the Universal Declaration of Human Rights?
They shouldn't have to declare when when a person exists, because it's obvious, it's after they're born.
Well, it was actually, the document was adopted in the late 1940s on the heels of the Holocaust, where personhood was not defined by whether you were born or not, but was defined by whether you were Aryan or not. And so the document was created in order to say, whoa, it is wrong to discriminate based on ethnicity, it's wrong to discriminate based on sexual orientation, and it's wrong to discriminate based on age. So we're going to adopt a document that says if you're a member of the human family, boom, you're a person. And so unless you can refute that the embryo is not human, that document adopted in the late 1940s applies to them. So how do you respond?
I respond by talking about the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, who are the doctors who understand when life actually does begin.
So when does it begin?
And they are pro-choice.
When does life begin?
Personhood begins
A ver,
after
excuse me,
abortion.
please.
I mean, this is a really super interesting debate, this whole where does life begin? And we can ask lots of people and we will get lots of different answers, and there will still be thousands of women getting illegal abortions today.
Regarding life, bacteria is also alive. The component that gives human life a sacred thing, and why the debate of abortion goes to that, comes from a dogmatic and religious background. If we take that out of the equation and we just observe life, yes, of course it exists. But let's talk about the origins of consciousness. Let's talk about what makes you human. Because only a heartbeat, someone in a coma can be breathing with machines. Are they alive? Although there's life.
What about someone under surgery? If you're under anesthetic, you're not conscious. May I kill someone under anesthetic because they're not conscious in that moment?
Right, of course. But you are already a human being.
So now,
you are already outside. Listen, this is the thing. That's why I dream of the day that a fetus can be taken out of the mother and independently grow into maybe a machine, maybe the womb of a man. And then we will see the difference. The difference is, yes, it's alive.
So are you saying as long as it's in the body,
in order to form itself? That's the
just to understand your position, are you saying if the child is in the mother's body, it's not a human being?
No, a complete human being.
Until it's out.
Are you saying
no,
that
I'm asking.
Is an embryo the same as a human being? Are you saying that an egg is the same as a chicken?
Well,
is that what you're saying?
Not all embryos are human. Dogs have embryos. Cats have embryos. Embryo
is
an age range.
Let's move this on.
Embryo is an age range.
All life
comes from embryos. I don't believe in protecting all embryos.
I believe in protecting embryos.
1 second. Answer, please.
All life comes from embryos. If you look at embryos of a cow, of a fish, they look exactly very similar in the first weeks. All life becomes with embryos. The component of sacred life for human, that comes from a religious and dogmatic background that we should question.
Would you say that same about slavery? Would you say that same about slavery? It was religion that drove the question of whether a black person was a human being or not. In America, we ended up in a war, but we had to write it into our Constitution that this being was a human. So would you say the same thing about an African, that it is a determination outside of religion whether a government decides whether they are human or not?
There are a lot of atheists and agnostic scholars, defenders of liberty all around history, from Hypatia from Alexandria to Socrates, that question slavery because every individual should be an end in himself, not a means for the end of others. And that includes women.
True.
They shouldn't be a means for the ends of others.
But the argument was made inside of religion that they had constitutional protections.
Okay, so if it's true that a human should never be a means to an end, then how can you treat the preborn child as a means? Moreover, if you say the baby, as long as it's in the mom's body, is not a human, then you have to be okay with abortion at 8 months pregnancy because the baby's in the mom's body, so it's not a human, right?
How can you
but if we are uncomfortable with late-term abortion, then we're admitting there are times where we acknowledge a child can be in the mother's body, but still a separate individual.
How can you treat an actual human life that already exists as a means for something that is a potentiality? Potentiality is not actuality.
Okay,
what actually exists
so you can't kill in 9 months.
And the young women. That is what actually exists. Let's please discuss reality with reality, not with potentiality.
So in 9 months, you can kill, then you're saying? So if the baby is still in utero at 9 months, then it's okay for us to kill that child. And in fact, get into your argument that the protection of that child, in America, that debate is still being had, whether it is life or not, when it begin. And we're having aggressive debates about whether in the 9th month, 9th hour, you can abort that child. I would like to know if any of you agree with those included in New York law that now says that the parent can have that child and still kill that child through abortion.
Okay, love it. Late-term abortion, my favorite. The fact of the matter is 90% of abortions happen before 10, 11 weeks of pregnancy when the embryo is literally like this. Yeah, almost all of them. The abortions that are later happen for very serious reasons, often because the woman didn't have the money to get to the abortion clinic until she was later in pregnancy because of bad law. But generally speaking, the abortions that happen later, after 20 weeks, are either because it's a very young girl who did not know she was pregnant, a woman in an abusive relationship, and if you want to blow your mind, Google reproductive coercion and the things men do to make women pregnant against their will.
But are they killing someone? Is someone dying?
You've been speaking quite a lot. This is my first time. And then the other thing is... The other thing is the majority of abortions that are carried out quite late are when there is something catastrophically wrong with the fetus. Spinal bifida, no brain. I could tell you things, couples who've called us for help who've had to leave their country to have these terminations of their much wanted pregnancies. And the other thing, talking about abortion, 8 months, 9 months, no doctor would perform one. So it wouldn't matter if we wanted one because no doctor would perform one. It is very rare for any doctor anywhere to perform an abortion after fetal viability has been established.
Señoras y señores, vamos a regalar 4 minutos más, ¿les parece? 4 more minutes, okay? Extra 4 more minutes. Compensation because it's
I think
like
we need to now move the debate into what kinds of punishments our opponents think women should suffer when they do have an abortion, because we've heard multiple tragic stories of the women who are on stage who chose to have an abortion. And if it is the killing of a human life, then logically they should have faced life in prison.
Well, not necessarily. It depends, because even the 4 of you cannot agree when it is actually a crime against humanity. You're saying that on one hand, most of the abortions are in the very early stages, but on the other hand, in these rare situations, that's 9 months as a different reason. So until we determine, is it life? It is very difficult then to say, well, what crime should be attached to it, or what punishment should be attached to it if you kill that life. So I would like to first hear, when is it life? When is the viability in your own individual opinions? Is it at 3 months or is it at 9 months?
We are moving into the question.
One or the other, 3 months or 9 months?
Point and counterpoint. You asked one question, you asked a different one. You all have been saying abortion is killing. It is the killing of a human life, and we are saying, if you believe it is the killing of a human life, we're not talking about what we believe, we're talking about what you have been saying.
It's a crime against humanity.
If you believe it is the killing of human life, what punishment should someone who has an abortion or perform an abortion receive?
Well, first of all, you can only have punishments when it's unlawful.
Right.
So in, like, my country, for example, of Canada, it's not unlawful. You can have abortions through all 9 months of pregnancy, and it's paid for by the government. And you yourself, and she's happy with that. So let's notice this applause is for an abortion at this far along in pregnancy, where babies can survive in the womb, and that's what she was clapping for.
There's no such thing as that.
Go ahead.
I am clapping because abortion is legal in your country, and
To
I
9
believe
months,
that
she
it,
said.
and I
9
should be,
months.
and I believe that it should be legal in every country. Every
Through all 9
pregnancy is
months?
different.
Through all 9 months?
Every pregnancy is different. Some pregnancies are never viable at all. Some pregnancies are viable after 6 or 7 months. Some babies are born premature. It just depends. Every pregnancy is different. That is a medical decision that I defer to expert doctors for.
But where do you draw the line then? At what are you saying through all 9 months? Do you support a law that allows abortion up until birth?
I don't draw the line because every single pregnancy is different, and some pregnancies are never viable, and some aren't viable after 8 months. I defer to the medical experts in terms of Planned
But what
Parenthood.
should the law say?
And they still
You're a
haven't answered
lawyer.
our
Should the
question.
law allow abortions up until the point that the child is out of the mom's
The question on the
body?
table is, what should the punishment be?
Okay, the punishment should be determined by what the law says. So when does the law interject itself to say this is okay and this is not. This is what we're having debate right now in our country. All right, abortion is legal through the 9th month, 9th hour in America today.
No, it's not.
So now we have to ask ourselves, when do we get to say, at the heartbeat, is it now viable? At the brain matter? At the time of, well, one governor wants it after the baby is actually born, and some consider that infanticide. So we can't assign a punishment if we have not determined a crime. So we need to know what is the crime that is being committed that you now want us to assign a punishment.
Let me make something clear. If you're ever prosecuted for the abortions that you've had, I have your back. I would defend you. You have the right to have an abortion.
I wouldn't want your defense for me killing my children. When you say...
Señoras y señores, se nos acabó el tiempo de este diálogo. Enorme aplauso, por favor. ¡Wow! ¡Wow! ¡Qué debate! I will make some questions to some of you. Very quickly, you have 1 minute, you could answer, or you could answer whatever you want, or just don't answer. You're free to choose. There's no crime at all. Voy a empezar contigo. Y es solamente, Gloria, con cada una de ustedes rápido. Por un lado, tú dices que cuando tú penalizas esto es realmente un impuesto contra la gente pobre, porque la gente que tiene recursos puede irse a otro lugar a hacer y cometerlo. Pero por el otro lado dices de que no estás de acuerdo que el gobierno con los recursos de los contribuyentes paguen el aborto de alguien que no tiene recursos. En pocas palabras, por un lado, tu política pública realmente está criminalizando de alguna manera al pobre porque no le permites que se le apoye cuando tiene una dificultad y no tiene los recursos, y por el otro lado estás tú criminalizando a la vez, diciendo lo contrario al decir que al prohibir esto estás atacando al pobre. Ahorita nada más para que la pienses. Robyn, you mentioned you're an atheist on the one hand, but you also mentioned that freedom to choose. If they want to have an abortion or they don't, do whatever you wish. As an atheist, I'm asking you the same question. Imagine that I'm in a school, in a private school, and I really want to teach creationism, not evolutionism. And I forbid to teach evolutionism in many of the private schools that I own, and whoever wants to learn something about science, learn it, and if they don't, no. Would you change your mind in that sense? Just think about it, okay? All of you, my question for you is the following. You said, again, I'm not going to force you to do whatever you don't want, and don't force me. Is there a limit where you could tell me, Andres, I won't force you to rape someone, I don't force you to kill someone, I don't force you to do whatever you want to, and do whatever you want, but don't tell me what I want or I don't want to do? That's the question for you. You know what I mean? Where do you put the line that do whatever you want to do when they believe that when you create or you have an abortion, you're really creating an externality to a third person, to another person, okay? And all your arguments have been amazing. Maggy, my question for you is, and it has to do with Marta and Mara. I'm sorry, with Star and Mara. You're Star, Toni, Mara, ya me hice bolas aquí con los nombres, no importa, okay? But all of you are human beings and I love you. Va, okay? You mentioned you had 4 abortions. No, I didn't. You did. Okay, I'm sorry. You had 4 abortions. Okay. My question is, you mentioned that the people that she have met, if they will live their lives again, they will do the same thing. Is she right?
Is that my question right?
That will be for you. No, don't answer me. Just to think. I'm still thinking that question for you, okay?
Take your time.
Okay. Para ti, tú dijiste, Marta, la pregunta que aquí tenía para ti era, tú tuviste a la edad que tuviste a tu bebé sientes que hay una gran coerción y una gran obligación de que no hay libertad porque una niña de 16 años o de 15 años pues realmente no tiene libertad para elegir porque no tiene información. Y si no tiene información, el que te presionen a abortar, pues realmente no es tu voluntad y está muy mal. Tú comentaste eso. Lo mismo te pregunto a ti. Hay gente que nace en una situación religiosa o en una familia donde se ve mal abortar y te presionan a no abortar, de la misma manera te están coercionando. Aquí te dijeron que habían 3 opciones o 4 que puedes adoptar, que te dan toda la información en este tipo de servicios. El argumento de la crítica contra la lógica que veo en ti es, así como te obligan a lo mejor a abortar y no eres libre para hacerlo, lo mismo tú puedes hacer con una persona que la obligas a no abortar y no explicarle la oportunidad de hacerlo si tu argumento es ser libre en la decisión. ¿Quedó claro? ¿Sí? Tu pregunta, este gran debate de... in English. I'm sorry. I thought I was speaking in English. After 75 speakers, I'm confused a little bit, okay? The big debate about what a human being is, different than a person, which has duties and rights. Because when you're a person, you start having also duties, obligations. And when you're 18 years old, you have another kind of obligations. And when you have 21 years old, well, you have other kind of rights and obligations. And things happen like that. But Gloria mentioned something that put on the table that I think it's very important. It's a question for you. She talked about 2 things, consciousness and sentient. That was by Robyn. My question is, life is extremely important. In your particular case, if you know that the life of the mother is at risk, and it's very important, as well as the life of the fetus, which for you is also, in a way, a person, a human being, what would you do? That's only for you. In that particular case, I want to say something for you that also I think it's an important argument. Imagine yourself that you were in a hospital and then you had a surgery, you are under anesthesia, and then you wake up and you have a lot of tubes connected to another person. And you wake up and you say, what the hell, what's happening on? And I'm the doctor, and I come with you and I tell you, you know what happened? When we were doing you a surgery, but we knew you were perfect, in a perfect condition, there was a car that had an accident and had an amazing, brilliant Nobel Prize that if we didn't connect it to you, this Nobel Prize that could bring a lot of good things to humanity would have died. We were unable to ask you permission. It was an accident. But please, let us connect it to you. You could answer me, Andres, I will give my life for that life and perfect, no problem. Or you could say, no, I will take my tubes and I don't care. They never ask me and I'm freedom to choose. My big question here has to do if it's really the same thing for you, Star, and for you, and for you, and for you, for all of you, to have a baby or fetus or whatever embryo, person, human being in your body, that what Gloria said, that it's outside your body. Because the autonomous, that we haven't talked about this word, autonomía, la autonomía of your body, your brain, your person, your continent, and your content is of you as a human being. If the baby is in a box, if the baby is outside, it's very different that it's within you. As you debate a lot about what a human being is, we don't have to lie ourselves. It's not the same thing that you have something inside of you that it's part also of your autonomy of decision than outside. What do you think if I say, in the example I gave you, you know, I will disconnect because I am free, I have my body, and I'm really sorry, but it's my life. That's for you, okay? And the last question for you. If, I have to make this point. If you were in Canada and there is 7 months of pregnancy, and of course, is the risk of life happening here, and the woman wants to have, or whatever, you're the policymaker, would you agree in that kind of situations that abortion is permitted? And to all of you, and with this I want to end, the argument that abortion will happen if you want and if you don't want, and you answer very well with slavery, but it will happen, is different than slavery because here it will happen. It will happen. It's not better to have health prevention, good education, and a system that do not kill the poor people. That's only a question for your side. And my last question for this side.
Oh, wait, we're supposed to
the last one. How about if you have a policy that could allow everybody to decide whatever they want, because that's the way you choose, yes, to impose on you a different form of, a different situation of thinking. But they have that freedom also to change the law. And the majority of the people support them. And that's what democracy tells. Would you allow that in a public policy system? Even that it goes against your principle, but it's the majority of the decision. Señoras y señores, you have each of you 1 minute to answer whatever you want. You make me think a lot. You provoke me with a lot of questions, and I thank you for that, and I thank all of you to be in this great debate. Thank you. Empecemos. Vas.
Precisamente porque me importan las personas en pobreza que no tienen la plata para irse a otro lugar donde sí es legal abortar, y porque me importa la libertad que cada una de ustedes tiene de que su dinero no sea usado contra lo que ustedes no creen, es que me opongo a que el aborto sea pagado con dinero de impuestos y prefiero muchísimo más la caridad y la ayuda individual y privada, como del barco del aborto que llegó a mi país, Guatemala, y de una manera ilegal el gobierno, la Iglesia Católica y los militares lo echaron cuando ya había mujeres guatemaltecas esperando para poder abortar. Esa me parece una mejor solución ante gobiernos corruptos. Y en cuanto a mayorías votando por algo, desgraciadamente ni en las democracias las mayorías votan. ¿Las mayorías de qué? Siempre son minorías. Y las mujeres afectadas casi siempre permanecen en silencio sin poder votar ante estas cosas. Entonces, cuando la mayoría en Latinoamérica dice no al aborto, pensemos, ¿están ahí las mujeres incluidas o no?
Muy bien, tiempo. Robyn, evolucionismo y creacionismo.
So you asked whether I would accept that creationism is taught in private schools. And I said at the get-go that I support religious freedom, and the ability to teach a biblical account of how life began is a component of religious freedom. So of course I would support that right. But, you know, if you want to cultivate medical scientists and technological advancement, then you better teach evolution in schools, because evolution is a fact. It is the only explanation for the diversity of life on our planet. And the problem is when religious ideas like creationism reach into the public schools or reach into the operation of law and force everybody to conform to one set of religious dogma. And so religious freedom is one thing, but imposition of religion through public policy and law is another.
Tiempo. Thank you very much. Vas.
Okay, so I'm going to conflate two questions. One is, can I do whatever I want? If I'm saying that you make your choice and I make my choice, can people do whatever they want? Like, could you murder someone? Yeah, you could, but then you'd have to go to jail and be tried by the law. But then I'm going to be a hypocrite and answer your last question and say if a country or a democracy allowed abortion to be against the law, if it was a majority decision, provided it was a democracy and not some other kind of government, would I think that was okay? And clearly no, I wouldn't think that's okay, because the whole basis of the charity that I started 10 years ago, which is run almost entirely by volunteers and funded by private individuals, helps women who live in countries where abortion is against the law travel to countries where abortion is legal so that they do not need to drink bleach or throw themselves down flights of stairs, and can be there for the children that they already have and the children that they may have in future, or for their lives without children as they so choose.
Muy bien, vas.
You asked me what the policy should be on whether there should be a law that you shouldn't be able to have an abortion at any certain point, whether it be at 7 months or 8 months or 6 months or 4 months or any other point. My answer to that is that every pregnancy is different, and that's really a medical decision that a doctor needs to make with their patient's best interests in mind, and it is up to the patient ultimately to decide what is best for her. There are pregnancies at 7 months where it's discovered at that point that the mother's life is in danger and that the fetus isn't going to survive. So there's no reason why there shouldn't be an abortion for that particular pregnancy. There could be other pregnancies that are different, and there's no way you can legislate perfectly for each unique situation, since every pregnancy is different. And so for those reasons, I don't think there should be a specific law saying which date of pregnancy can be terminated by. And I also just want to say in closing that I told you that the Roe versus Wade, I'm going to be out of time. I'll tell you about that later. Thank you.
Okay. Vas, muy bien.
I do not think that we should separate the question of slavery from the question of abortion, which is what you've asked me. They're both crimes against humanity, and you have laws that get in the way of either crime against humanity. Slavery is not eradicated around the world. There are many countries that still have slaves. It's just civilized societies say, do we want others to kill others? Do we want others to think of others as property? Make no mistake, poor people did not own slaves. Poor people were slaves. So when you hear those that consider themselves pro-choice argue that abortion is good for the poor, keep in mind that Planned Parenthood was founded by a eugenicist, a person who believed that poor people were human weeds. Keep in mind that most of the places where you see the promotion of abortion abroad are in the poorest of communities, because they do not believe that poor people should reproduce many children. They despise the religion of poor people, which is Christianity.
Tiempo. Thank you very much. Paz.
I'm going to sum yours down to what is freedom. And I will ask the question also, how many of us have made a decision based on how we felt in the moment and then regretted it? I know I have. And although we talk about feelings, feelings are powerful, but they don't always dictate what is true in the moment. And I completely understand, not just because I've been there, but countless women who are in horrible situations. I get that. But I think they need to know all of their choices all the way through. And I don't believe everyone is being educated. They may think abortion is the only choice. But if a woman is going to have empowerment to make a choice, she should know every single thing and all the background behind it. And so I've had countless women I've had countless women who have adopted.
Perdón, se acabó el tiempo, but you will have 30 seconds left, more after. Vas.
La pregunta es por qué una mujer que elige abortar no debería ser libre para elegir eso. Yo creo que, como ha dicho muy bien Gloria, el aborto no está en la bucket list de ninguna mujer y deberíamos preguntarnos por qué. Y realmente una mujer cuando elige abortar está siendo verdaderamente libre para tomar esa decisión.
Mi pregunta era para ti, si una persona que no aborta está verdaderamente también libre para tomar decisiones, al revés.
Creo que cuando eliges no abortar, que es mi caso, yo elegí no abortar porque sabía muy bien que dentro de mí lo que había era otro ser humano. Y el conocimiento de la verdad
es lo que te permite tomar una decisión libre. Si no conoces la realidad como es, entonces no eres libre. Si conoces la realidad como es, puedes tomar una decisión libremente porque actúas consecuentemente con cómo es la realidad. Y yo creo que el que elige no abortar está actuando consecuentemente con la realidad, que es que hay un ser humano dentro de su propio cuerpo.
Gracias. Vas.
There's two types of rights coming up here. There's civil rights and human rights. Civil rights you might get because of a certain age. You're 16, you can drive, or you're 21, you can drink, whatever it is. But the right to live is not a civil right, it's a human right, and all that members is that you're a living human. All that matters. Personhood is a legal term that we apply to groups, and the UN has opted to say that you are a person if you're a member of the human family. And if we have any other criteria such as ethnicity, skin color, sex, sexual orientation, or age, we're discriminating. So by denying preborn children their personhood status, which this panel is doing, they're discriminating based on age because sentience and consciousness is determined by how old the embryo is. If the mother's life is in danger, we can intervene without an abortion, such as a salpingectomy with a tubal pregnancy or an induction of labor to remove infection if there's chorioamnionitis and an abortion is not needed.
¡Wow! ¡Un aplauso! Este debate podría ser, if you want to add something, you have 30 seconds. You have already probably said everything, but you have, whoever wants, you have 30 seconds for conclusions if you want.
Conclusion.
I have something I would like to say.
I imagine that.
I imagine that. And I've also written it down, so I will not get it wrong. Pregnant women have been chosen to bring a miracle of great awe into the world. She doesn't know who they will be, nor will she know what their choices will be, because those choices will be left up to the individual that she brings into the world. Her only choice should be to give that incredible opportunity to make those choices, not to kill the offspring.
Bravo, vas. ¿Alguien de aquí?
Precisamente porque el aborto no está en el bucket list de ninguna mujer y es algo bastante difícil, es que debería de ser legal para que sea una opción. Porque hay muchas mujeres que se esclavizan a ser madres porque la sociedad les ha dicho que son asesinas si no lo hacen y las hacen sentir culpables. A diferencia de en España, donde es tolerado, en países como el mío, muchas se esclavizan a ser mamás por hacer lo correcto de acuerdo a lo que la sociedad dice.
Muchas gracias. ¿Alguien más? Vas, please.
Es imposible que se esclavicen a ser madre, porque una vez que eres madre, ya es algo, es un hecho. En el momento en el que hay un óvulo y un espermatozoide que se unen y un nuevo ADN, ahí hay un ser vivo que es tu descendencia. Ya biológicamente eres madre. Entonces la esclavitud es algo que te impone otro y realmente nadie te lo ha impuesto, sencillamente eres madre. Ahora puedes decidir si seguir adelante con esa vida humana o acabar con ella.
Perdón, ¿puedo decir algo?
Sí, claro, rapidísimo, tienen 2 minutos.
Madre no es solo la que pare, es la que cría y educa, y eso te transforma la vida para siempre.
¿Puedo decir algo?
Sí, pero en el break también pueden platicar, ¿eh? Vas.
Tienes razón, Gloria, pero todo lo biológico tiene una continuación cultural. Ahora, tú puedes continuar biológicamente con tu embarazo porque es un hecho que eres madre biológica y luego puedes decidir no ser la que cría y educa. Precisamente por eso existe la opción de la adopción. Porque para eso sí que eres libre.
Pero
por favor, please.
Let me tell you something. If you want to end abortion, you need to invest in comprehensive sex education. You need to make sure that everybody has access to birth control. You need to fight with everything you've got against sexual abuse and incest and rape and stand up for women. In other words, you should support Planned Parenthood.
A ver, ¿quién no ha hablado?
And if we did that, would they end abortion?
Please.
Is this our conclusion? I'm confused.
Yes.
Is this our
Yes,
final?
this
This
is
is
the
it.
conclusion.
Okay, I have something when it's that
Okay.
after them.
Whoa, I hadn't started.
Por favor. Don't worry, I give you 6 more seconds. Vas.
So, on one side, that side, no one should ever have an abortion. And on that side over there, outside the WIP building, is everybody who's pregnant must have an abortion. And we are the middle ground. We are the middle of the argument. Pro-choice is not about, is abortion right or is abortion wrong? It is about who gets to make that decision. And I think it is me for me and you for you.
Vas, please.
Every single one of us on our bodies has a belly button, which is a reminder that every single one of us was once a child in the womb. We were once weak and vulnerable, and our powerful mothers could have decided to dominate and destroy us by saying, "This is your body given for me." But instead, in an act of love, our mother said, "This is my body given for you." It's what Tal said, Natan, to give is to receive.
Por favor,
Yes.
last.
You know, the people who vote pro-life in the United States, they also tend to vote for conservative politicians who are against giving food, shelter, and health care to poor children. They don't really care about children, certainly not live ones. They care about religion. And what religion cares about is controlling women's bodies and punishing them for their sexuality. End of story.
Señoras y señores, enorme aplauso, por favor, párense. Wow, este debate no acaba aquí, no acaba hoy, no acaba entre ellas, pero por favor prendan la luz. Se quedan muchas preguntas, la diferencia entre la potencia y el acto que dijo Gloria, lo que pasa en el camino de accidentes, si es un debate de religión, un debate de libertad. Lo que sí podemos decir son dos cosas. Primero, alguien cambió de opinión, que levante su paleta. ¿Sí cambiaron de opinión? ¿Ahora qué son? Ok. Independientemente, a ver si podemos hacer este ejercicio. I try to make a point, okay? Probably you're pro-life, probably you're pro-choice. Keep that way, if you wish. My question is, independientemente de que sean pro-vida o no, ¿quién de ustedes creen que fueron mejor los argumentos de este lado? Pro-libertad. ¿Quién creen que fue mejor los argumentos de este lado? Yo creo que todos nosotros aprendimos. Muchas gracias, un break y regresamos en un momento. Un aplauso. Amazing.